the amazing Captain Reid Wiseman. Welcome everybody back from the break. This is going to be the afternoon session of the Interstellar Initiative grants. We have another treat for you. We've got Reid Wiseman is going to talk to us today about some of his experiences in space. Let me tell you just a little bit about Reid before we get started. He's a captain in the U.S. Navy. He got an opportunity to fly F-14 Tomcats, so I am absolutely positively green with envy. I have to say, I would speculate that Tom Cruise wants to be Reid Wiseman when he grows up. Reid did 2 deployments to the Middle East in 2003. He became a test pilot, worked on programs such as the F-35 Lightning, F-18, E-45 Goshawk. He spent some time with the Strike Fighter Squadron 103, where he got a chance to fly the F-18F Super Hornet. In 2009, NASA wisely chose him as an amazing astronaut. And then in 2014, he got to serve as a flight engineer on the International Space Station for Expedition 41. I think he also really did a good job of trying to communicate through social media about what that experience was like. And I got to think for somebody that's a military person, a pilot, that was probably a little bit of muscle memory they weren't used to. So kudos for trying to go through and share that kind of experiential thing. He commanded Nemo 21, the Aquarius Reef Habitat. And then of course, he currently serves as the chief of the astronaut office. So as if all those other accomplishments didn't make you feel this big, which it makes me feel this big, let's just go ahead and pound that dirt flat, right? So he's got a Bachelor of Science in Computer and Systems Engineering, a Master's of Science in System Engineering. And we also love him here at Limitless Space Institute because he's on our board of advisors. So Reid, so happy you got a chance to come chat with us today. We're going to hand you the microphone and you can take it away. I'm going to go on mute and remove my video and just we're just going to sit here and enjoy.
All right, thanks, Sonny. My goal here, and note you all can turn your cameras off if you want and just sit back and relax. I just spent about 20 minutes with Sonny and I need a nap. The things that are going on out there that everyone is doing are just blowing my mind. There will be no equations in this presentation. My goal was just to be pretty lighthearted and just take a quick snapshot as kind of where we are in human spaceflight. And y'all were already touching on William Shatner. And so I want to take a pause for 20 or 30 minutes as we're talking about sending humans further than we could ever even imagine and solving energy problems around our own world with the work you all are doing, and just take a look at where we are in 2021. So I'm going to start with a very quick video that we're located. Limitless Space right now is just outside the gates of Johnson Space Center. I don't know how many of you have been here. And just going to take a quick 3-minute video of what's going on at Johnson Space Center, kind of a look back and what we're doing right now. And then I'll talk about a few things that I want to hit on.
Real quick before you share, make sure you click the share sound. Fro should know that, just making sure.
All right, I will highlight share sound. Fro is right here. And then Fro, which one do I want to share? Screen 2. Fro worked with me for 12 years. So it's like being back home with Fro here.
We stole Fro.
Presentation. What would we do without Fro? Okay, let's see if this plays. All right, so I'm going to keep sharing my screen. Let me see. Maybe I made it start over. Okay. So let's just look at 2021. Every time I do a talk these days, people, I think, mistake the 1960s for the golden age of human spaceflight. And I really want everybody listening, if you just got a chance when you're talking about where we're going in human spaceflight, let's just take a look at 2021. Most of you probably already know the story of this year, but to me, it's worth pausing for a second as humans on this planet and just taking a look at what we've done. I'm going to start in April of 2021. There were more human launches and landings than ever before in that month in the history of humanity. So we have 2 Russians and an American, Mark Vandehei, over in Russia. There's their Soyuz launch in the far background, launching from the Baikonur Cosmodrome. We also brought Kate Rubins back to Earth. You saw her in that video a couple of times. She is a infectious disease scientist who was studying Ebola virus when we hired her. That was her second space flight. And then really fun for me was launching the second crewed flight. You all got to talk or got to listen to Victor Glover this morning. He was on our first long duration SpaceX flight, and this was the second crew there. We've got a Japanese astronaut, a French astronaut on either side of Megan and Shane Kimbrough, 2 American astronauts, and they are still in space right now. They're docked. When I leave this presentation, I'll go over to Johnson Space Center and talk about our go for undock, which should happen sometime around November 4th, 5th, or 6th, weather dependent. This is their launch. I wanted to highlight this briefly. I don't know if any of you live on the East Coast, but they launched from Cape Canaveral in Florida. You can see their plume there at liftoff, but then it turns kind of that bluish white color. They launched into a rising sun, and people that were in Washington, D.C., all up the coast, Virginia Beach, Baltimore, New York, they were on their morning commute and just saw this crazy highlighted rocket trail in the sky, and it was magnificent for all those folks to see Shane and Megan Tamanaki launch into the space station. It was a crazy launch. Then just a month later in May, that capsule right there, you can see a rescue diver is attached to the side of that. SpaceX welcomed home Crew 1, and Victor Glover, who you heard from this morning, was on that capsule. There they are inside, right when we got the hatch open, incredibly clean. Everybody did fantastic. Shannon Walker, Victor Glover, Mike Hopkins, and Soichi Noguchi, another Japanese astronaut, took that vehicle up there and brought it home safely. They landed at night, which was really interesting to get to be out there for a night landing. The amount of stuff that comes off this vehicle as it's coming back from space, when the parachutes come out, just the amount of fabric and different fibers and materials that were floating around in the ocean was actually somewhat interesting to me to see from the rescue boat. And then June 2021, most of us probably missed this event, but to me it was very neat. It was a launch of 3 taikonauts from China, and they went up and basically outfitted and started a long duration space flight on the Chinese space station, which if you actually look, it looks an awful lot like ours, the US and Russian space station, all the way down to the blue handrails. But they lived up there for quite a few months and they just returned to Earth. And then in July of 2021, to me, it got very interesting because we started our suborbital paying passengers with Richard Branson there taking Virgin Galactic up on its first truly private mission for a suborbital flight. And then just a few weeks later, Jeff Bezos, which somewhat was a marketing flub, I think, in the end, but it was a very successful mission. You can see their booster has just returned. And one very cool thing there is Wally Funk was on that mission. She's there looking at the booster, and she was supposed to be in the original astronaut class, and then that never went through when they went with all men. And so it was really neat for Wally Funk to get her chance to go into space. Then in September, we launched Inspiration 4. We really was SpaceX on a St. Jude fundraising mission, and Jarek Isaacman, who I knew when I flew in the Navy, he funded that, being the billionaire that he is. And that mission was 3 days, fully orbital. They actually went to an apogee higher than the Hubble Space Telescope, higher than the space station. So their view of Earth was quite spectacular. They also had a few issues on that capsule. They had some bathroom issues, and I think overall they learned that 3 days in space, although it's magnificent, it's probably the wrong number of days to be in space. So if anybody buys a ticket on one of these vehicles that's going orbital, I recommend 4 or more days, because you really feel terrible for the first few days you're in space. But that was a very successful mission. And now we're into the month that we're at right now. Russia just launched a really interesting crew, which is a movie star there on the left, and then Anton Shkaplerov, who I know very well, and then the director is on the right. And right now, I just talked to the crew yesterday, and the director is up there directing them through all of the movie castings with the Russian crew members, and they're actually filming a no kidding motion picture on the International Space Station. So we'll look forward to seeing that later, probably in a year or two. And then, as we were talking about right before, really awesome as a Star Trek fan growing up. Used to watch a show with my brother, and just getting to see William Shatner on that flight yesterday and getting to hear his comments of how tiny that atmosphere was. Very special, I think, for all of us. It was neat. Looking just a little bit into the end of October here, probably October 30th or 31st, or maybe November 3rd or 4th. We'll launch our 3rd SpaceX crew to the space station. We have Raja Chari as a rookie commander, Tom Marshburn, and then Matthias and Kayla. Matthias is a German astronaut, and we look forward to seeing them on the space station. And then I do have to just fast forward into February of 2022, since Cam Gafarian runs a couple different great companies, and he is running Axiom, and we will send our first fully private research mission to the International Space Station with Axiom 1, commanded by Mike LA. And so it's interesting just to pause in my life, especially so focused on human spaceflight, and just look back at 2021 and what has been going on this year. The number of suborbital private missions, orbital science missions, orbital private missions. We've never seen anything like this. This is a step function in human exploration for sure, and it will only build in the years to come. This extreme enthusiasm, I saw it in 2017 and 2021. Brian Kelly, who runs Limitless Space, he chaired the selection board in 2017. We had 18,000 applications. And then in 2021, we had another 12,500 applications. So in our last 2 cycles, we selected about 20 total astronauts, and we reviewed over 30,000 applications of highly qualified Americans. And these are the greatest people I have ever met. And our country is strong, and these people are really doing great things. But obviously, none of us want to stop at suborbital or Earth orbit. And so for those of you who live in Texas, if you have not taken an airplane or driven your car down to Boca Chica, right near Brownsville, you have homework. You have got to go down there. It is the Wild Wild West. SpaceX is building Starship and their giant booster down there. And if you have not driven down there, you just have to. As a human being, you have got to go see this facility. There's no gates, there's no security. You can drive your car right up to the base of this rocket and take a picture of it, and it is incredible. Just this one picture does not do justice what Elon and SpaceX are doing at this facility. They're creating their own methane. This is a methane burning rocket with liquid oxygen, and just the entire facility is incredible. Every single weld that gets made on that vehicle, I love this. Every single weld on that vehicle, the welder circles it and then signs their name underneath of it with the date. And any weld that fails, they know exactly why and who to go to. But then every welder has ownership in this rocket when it launches. Their name is all over it. They love seeing all of these welds that they did. It's just little tiny things like that empower the entire workforce down there. And they do it left and right. It's really an amazing place. So please, if you have not made it to Boca Chica, you just got to go down there. It's incredible. And then over in Florida with the Space Launch System, this is a NASA project to create a very, very powerful booster to get us out to the moon and to get, I think, 43 metric tons off the planet into lunar orbit. And that vehicle is fully assembled right now. The first uncrewed test flight should go here in, I would say, February, March of 2022. And then we'll look to put humans on it 2 years later. So humans suborbital, humans low Earth orbit, and very, very soon through SpaceX and NASA, humans back to the moon and then on to Mars. Sunny and kind of the buzzword around here at LSI is go incredibly fast. And so it is hard to go incredibly fast when you're putting humans on rockets. But I just wanted to take a look at some of these numbers. Blue Origin, founded 21 years ago, and they're flying humans for pay. SpaceX founded 19 years ago, and they are truly disrupting everything in the entire industry, whether it's government payloads, private payloads, or humans. They're disrupting the entire landscape right now. And then Virgin Galactic, although it really started in scaled deposits, Virgin was founded in 2004. So 18 years later, they're flying humans. And then because I work at NASA, I definitely have to compare and contrast that with NASA, founded in 1958. And then 11 years later, Neil Armstrong stepped on the lunar surface. 11 years, folks. That can't happen anymore in today's world. That is just absolutely amazing. That right there is incredibly fast. And the reason in this crowd that I just wanted to take a second to reflect on that is, we, talking to Sonny, all of you, we're on the brink of some major discoveries that are going to be another step function in just power and in sending humans beyond our solar system. I truly believe that. And never underestimate the will of a motivated nation and the tax base to make these things happen. And that is what made Apollo happen. It took competition from the Soviet Union, as you all know, but 11 years we made all of those leaps, and that was incredible. And then I want to just take a second to look at the human element of spaceflight. This is what William Shatner touched on so well yesterday. I think it is interesting that as humans, no matter how quickly we are moving forward, in my perspective, we're always looking back. So I want to play a quick video. I don't need the audio to it. This is my launch morning. It's only about 2 minutes long. People ask me what was the hardest thing about flying into space. By far, the hardest thing was saying goodbye to my 2 young daughters, knowing that I was boarding a Russian rocket and I was going to be away from them for a little over 6 months. That was the guy who built our Russian rocket. He just leaned over and said, "Hey, everything's going to be fine." And then up the ladder we go, and you do all these simulators, and so you kind of understand everything. But when you walk up to that living, breathing rocket and it's filled with liquid oxygen and kerosene, it is a totally alive animal. You climb on board that rocket, and about 2 hours later, the pad is clear, you're fueled up, and it's off to the races. The Soyuz that I flew on, Russian-built rocket, that's my family. The only thing lighting them up was our rocket exhaust. That's my brother, my best friend, my mom in the lower left. You can even see one of my daughter's heads. Brian Kelly was with them all, taking care of them. Soyuz is a totally liquid rocket. It's smooth as silk, a little bit bumpy. The thing that really blew my mind on this ascent was how quickly we were through the sound barrier. You could hear the wind building up over the shroud covering us, and then it just seemed like seconds after liftoff, there was no wind noise as we were through the sound barrier. It's about a 9-minute ride into orbit. You're 0 miles an hour on the pad, and when the engines cut out, you're at 17,000 miles an hour. And I'm pretty much a firm believer that regardless of what we design to power us once we're in the vacuum of space, we're pretty much always going to leave the planet like this. We're going to leave the planet in some sort of liquid fuel booster, and it's going to feel a lot like this. But after 9 minutes, you can see this euphoria as a Russian, a German, and an American have survived ascent. And then we had a GoPro. This is 7 years ago, but we had a GoPro that's a little stuffed animal from my daughter. And then this was the first look outside. I know that you all believe the Earth is flat, but I can tell you from personal experience, the Earth is actually round. It's hard to believe how many people give me grief about that. But that look right there, that's 1.2 million feet. And William Shatner yesterday was at about 300,000 feet. So nearly 4 times as high. And I can't agree more with what he was saying. It's those blues, that tiny atmosphere, and no photograph does this justice. When you get to look out with your own eyeballs and your brain processing this image and moving around the Earth at 17,500 miles an hour once every 90 minutes, it truly blows you away. Like 6 months in space, I still could not grasp how beautiful our planet is. It didn't matter whether it was a hurricane, a lightning storm at night, floods, a crystal clear day, an eclipse. It's just everything that is going on with the Earth. It is live and it is totally beautiful. So that right there is the extent of what I've ever seen. But our Apollo astronauts, they went out to the moon and they couldn't stop looking back at our Earth. I love that picture. You all know that picture of Earthrise, but it's beautiful. When we send our rovers to Mars, we turn the cameras back and we find Earth. And there is Earth and the moon. I think the moon's about 3 pixels in that picture, but that is totally awesome. And then my personal favorite photograph of all time is this one. Although some of the Hubble deep fields rival this one to me, but this is our Earth Moon system right here. I'm not sure if you can see my cursor, and then the rings of Saturn. That picture blows my mind. I used to tell everybody my favorite planet by far was Saturn because I love looking at it through a telescope out back with my kids. But for sure, when you leave Earth and get to look back at Earth, there's no question which planet is the most impressive, and it's the one that we live on every day. And then in closing, shout out to our LSI partners, because I think we'll be riding this vehicle pretty soon. Might be 50 years, might be 10, might be 100 years, but we got to do it. All right, so that was about 22 minutes. I really appreciate you all humoring me. I wanted everybody to reflect on what 2021 is, because I think 15, 20 years down the road, we will look back at 50 years of humans flying in space, 60 years of humans flying in space. It was this year, I think, when everything changed. And it is an awesome time to be a part of human spaceflight, whether you're at SpaceX or Blue or Virgin or NASA, where my deep passion is with the government work that we're doing for the U.S. taxpayer. This year, kind of everything changed, and the landscape is totally different. So, Sonny, thanks for giving me a chance to talk. I'm happy to stay on for 5 minutes of questions, or I'm happy to beat feet and let you guys get back to.
No, you're great. We will take you up on some questions that just some questions from the panelists. First, I just want to say, hey, thanks for coming. As always, love listening to hear you talk. Just absolutely inspiring. And it's neat to see the videos where you're sharing that experience. I completely agree with you. I think that's very true. We're definitely seeing a golden age in space exploration, right? The 60s was a unique chapter, but this too is a unique chapter. And I want to add my voice to echo you. Boca Chica, you really should go. I took the family down there to Boca Chica, got a chance to tour the facilities down there. And as you say, it's like, wow. I mean, you can tell history is being made right there. So that's definitely put that on the to-do list. See if you can't convince the family to go down. You go down there with you. It might seem remote, but I think it'll be worth it. So
yeah, you hit on a really important part. It is not Disney. It is not the family destination that I would look to take my kids for a week-long vacation. But if you can get down to Brownsville and see that place, you got to do it.
Right. Oh, that's awesome. So I got, hey, for the panelists and folks that are online, if folks got some questions for Reid, feel free to lift them up. I think I've already got Phil. Go ahead, bud.
Yeah, great talk. Thanks so much. One of the things that's concerned me for many, many years is the risk-adverse nature of NASA. I was actually a finalist in the 1980 class, astronaut class, and had spina bifida that was discovered. But I'm really worried about this because, as you can see, NASA is being pushed by private space rather than being pushed internally in certain areas. Other areas NASA does fabulously. For example, robotic missions are amazing. But on the human space side, I think there's just a real risk-adverse nature to it. We've lost astronauts in tragic ways, and that has been very difficult for the public. But honestly, this has really held us back. And I wonder if you could address this issue, because many people who look at something like SLS, just kind of shake their heads and say, "Wow, it's been decades, and it's still not off the ground." So
let me inject one thing. So Reid is a NASA employee and he loves SLS. So I'll say that for him.
Yeah, no, I love SLS too. I do, but I'm very worried that without a real, we can do it and let's do it. Even if it blows up, let's do it.
Yeah.
And that's Sonny, thanks. Sonny's trying to keep me out of jail. I completely agree with what you're saying. And we talk about this all the time. Are we risk averse? Honestly, yeah, we are risk averse, but we are working very hard to change that. It's hard to change any giant government organization, but I just want you to take one quick look at the Commercial Crew Program. I think that right there was a risk that NASA took to build up. We realized this risk aversity internal. We needed to do things cheaper. We needed to do things faster. And they said, all right, let's pay Boeing and SpaceX, and let's see if they can get people off the planet cheaper, safer, potentially. And I thought that was a huge risk on a programmatic side, and it has paid off enormously well. Boeing is coming online, still a little bit behind, and that's, you know, I hope they're flying next year. SpaceX has completely crushed it. And then for Space Launch System, I would say there is risk adversity there, which certainly hurts us, but there's also loads of political pressure. When Constellation got canceled, that program changed and shifted. And so whenever you add in the political will across different parties through multiple years and funding taxpayer dollars into different centers and government contracts, that just drags all of that out. And the Commercial Crew Program kind of got us out of that rut and looking at things a little bit differently. But there's still a place for these large government systems. SLS to me is our sure bet going forward. Like what's going on at Boca Chica is amazing. And I'm rooting for them every day. I clap when they blow up and I clap when they succeed. It's just incredible in both ways. I went down there and serial number 10 had just blown up and there was a big rubble field. And I was climbing all over it. There's no hypergalls. And they said, I asked them if I could take pieces. And they said, sure. And so I put like a few cannon plugs in my flight suit pocket. Like I love that. It's awesome. But at the same time, we need the horse we can bet on. And for now, that is definitely SLS. So I love having this kind of two-pronged approach that we're doing. I think it's okay. And I do think this younger culture is much more aware of risk adversity. And if we never fly, that's the safest thing we can do. And that's a total failure of the system. And so the younger folks are definitely pushing to get things moving. And SpaceX is pushing us too. And that's pretty neat to see.
That's awesome. Yeah, thank you, Reid. Thank you, Phil, for the question. Kelvin, you're next, bud.
Yeah, hi, Reid. Nice to talk to you. I wanted to be you growing up. I still want to be you growing up. So much respect to you. I have a question about the current era. I loved your kind of overview, particularly last year. You referred to Apollo and the competition with the Soviet Union at the time, and that competition, how it led to us going to the moon. And I mean, I might argue that the current era started in 2003 with the loss of STS-107, because that led to, multiple administrational reviews about the space program. Are we going back to the moon? Are we not? Changes of administration, investments. And then we had eventually the government investment in SpaceX in particular, which really pushed things forward. So, one is kind of starting from conflict and it breeds competition. The other one is disaster breeds competition. I'm just wondering if there's another way where, if NASA had, twice its current budget, where you don't need either of those, and you could try and explore space constructively and with our partners that doesn't require this conflict or these kind of disasters.
I love, Kelvin, the way you just asked that question. Yeah, looking back on my own life, why am I an astronaut? It's truly because of Challenger. Like that is burned into my mind as an elementary school student when that happened. It changed the course of my life. So my career was built out of disaster. What I want to highlight on briefly in your question is, I think competition is good. I think adverse competition is good. But what I think is absolutely required is vision. And if you want to do something huge and you want to do something, whether it is government or SpaceX, you've got to have a vision, and what changed at NASA recently was Artemis. When Jim Bridenstine named this kludged together moon program, Artemis, we're going to the moon, we're doing it in 2024. Even though we're not going to make 2024, it was the first time in 10 years that I'd worked at NASA and I saw vision, direction, motivation, workforce clarity. We made more progress in the 3 years that he was our administrator than in the whole 7 combined, and probably in the last 30. So there's a great inscription on this, I think the Science Subcommittee in Congress, and it says, where there is no vision, the people perish. And I think that is what is required. Elon Musk gives a great vision for SpaceX. We're landing people on Mars. I think NASA has done a great vision with Artemis. We are landing people on the moon, and then we're going to solve some issues that we've got, and we're going to go to Mars. That vision is required. And then if you can put some time pressure on it and say, we're doing it now, I think that is the perfect blend. So that's my answer to your question. I love that question.
Thanks, Kelvin, for the question. Thank you, Reid, for the answer. This is fantastic. And thank you, Reid, so much for giving us some of your time today. I just want to say something that just like Kelvin said that he wanted to be you when he grows up, I'm going to go ahead and say that I think Tom Cruise wants to be you when he grows up. So with that, hey, thank you, Reid. Appreciate you coming and spending some time with